Hello, Vortex. I'm very annoyed right now because there's somebody behind me. And y'all know how much I hate it when people are behind me. Hopefully they don't follow me back to my house. No, okay, they're gone. That's good. I get very easily annoyed. The trade-off is I have a very, 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 very long fuse. So it's exceedingly difficult to piss me off. And even if I do get pissed off, I don't like to stay pissed off because it's counterproductive. Usually doesn't put me in a positive headspace. So I would rather be in better spirits. You heard that right. I was wearing my seatbelt. I'm trying to mature a little bit, not be so obstinate about silly things. Because I've realized that the whole reason why I have these knee injuries is because I refuse to wear my seatbelt. And in case y'all aren't familiar, I was in a really, really bad car accident in July, and I totaled my last car, Fiona, this little red Chevy Aveo that I loved very, very much. I kissed her every single night, and I don't worship her or anything. I just, appreciated her. So much so that I pulled out in front of a vehicle and got smashed into immediately. And because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, I hit the dashboard, and I had this giant goose egg on my head. Not to mention my raccoon eyes, which didn't show up until like a couple days later, which freaked me out. I thought I was going to die or something. Because that's really scary. When you don't think that you have like major injuries and all of a sudden like you wake up and your eyes are black. Like, yeah, that's very scary. But yeah, so my knees hit the steering wheel. And the airbag hit me in the chest. So I realized like I would have had like really bad injuries either way. But I don't think that I would have hurt myself anywhere near as severely if I had been wearing my seatbelt. But I probably would have had a neck injury if I had been wearing it. So I didn't have a neck injury. But I don't think seatbelts are good, though. I don't. Mainly because they've been propagandized so much. Like, every time that I read an article about any kind of vehicular collision, they always mention the seatbelt situation. Much like the whole vaccine situation. So if somebody dies, they'll be like, oh, but they weren't vaccinated. Or like, say a dog attacks somebody and say that somebody's like their owner. They'll say, oh, it's because the dog wasn't vaccinated. That's why that attack happened. So they make it about that. And then what if the dog attacked because it was vaccinated? What if people were dying because of the vaccine? They won't mention that. So if somebody, that's how you know it's bullshit. So that's why I don't trust seatbelts, because that's always what they mention whenever there's like a motor vehicle accident. They always mention like, oh yeah, well, this person wasn't wearing their seatbelt and that's why they have all these injuries. As if like that's the only reason why somebody would sustain any injuries is because of that. You know what I'm saying? It's just silly, and it makes me think that it's not a good thing. But I understand though. I mean, if you're in an accident, like, you think that if you had, this seatbelt to protect you, this seatbelt to strap you in and ensure that you're not going to fly around the vehicle, like, I understand all that. Nobody has to explain that. I'm the direct recipient of, my rebellion and, my distrust of the propaganda. So I'm obviously willing to accept the consequences of my actions. I'm lucky that those consequences weren't any worse, but at the same time, I stand by my original position that they're always pushing propaganda on us in order to control our behavior. And so I'm very, very skeptical about anything that is being pushed by the mainstream media. But anyway, I'm trying to get over these things, though. I'm trying not to be so stubborn about silly things, if those things might save my life, I've been asking myself the question, am I a good Christian? Are the things that I'm doing resembling my Savior? And that's something that I gotta ponder. And I don't wanna ever be a denier of the true faith. I don't want anybody around me to be dismayed by my lack of understanding. Because, there's so many Christians out there that are such terrible examples. There's so many people out there that are just terrible people in general. And I don't want to add to that, especially when I say that I understand why he died for me. Do my actions go along with my words? Do my actions prove that I'm a hypocrite? Prove that I'm a hypocrite. Prove that I'm a hypocrite. I don't think there's anything worse than being a hypocrite. And that's why I don't have a smartphone. I'm not saying that you're a hypocrite if you have a smartphone, but what I'm saying is that I'd be a hypocrite if I had one. Because I hate it so much. 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 So I'm not gonna do what I hate. Even if it would be so convenient. Even if it would make my life a lot easier, a lot simpler. And I think that people should respect me based off this consistency. And I'm not saying that I can't change my mind, but there's stuff that I won't budge no matter what. And I think that's good. You need more people like me. And less of these lukewarm pieces of shit. They don't know what they believe in, if they believe in anything at all. And I know that I don't know what I'm playing, but I just play what I feel like playing, and I listen to it later on, and I'm like, wow, that was terrible. Seriously though, I wish it was better. I do. Because like, sometimes I'll listen to it, I'll be like, that is so good, why can't you do that all the time? And I'm like, well, if I could do it all the time, like, I'd have it made, right? I wouldn't need to keep trying, I wouldn't need to keep praying, I wouldn't need to, keep trusting in God and all that. So I feel like, like much like Paul was talking about, how he rejoices in like having that thorn in his side. I feel like there's a lot about me that annoys me, a lot that sometimes I wish wasn't there, because it just makes my life so much more annoying and complicated. And I mean, I'm just in a state of frustration like the majority of the time. And so I guess that's why I'm so like ridiculous and absurd, because like that, I'm a very, very serious person, and my life just seems like a joke in so many ways. But I mean, I fare really well for this thing in my head that people can't see. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because I'm not crying doesn't mean that I don't care. I promise you, whenever you leave, I'll be bawling my eyes out. But I can't be myself completely in front of anybody, and this kills me. This kills me. And that's why I can't be what I am right now. I can't be that person on stage. I just won't allow it to happen. Self-awareness or something. A conscience, maybe. And I think about all the things that I say without you there, dear vortex. For everything funny that I say, there's so much there that gets in the way of even funnier shit that I'm dealing with. And I wish you could see it, but you can't, you never will. And that's my lot. I got a lot, I got a lot, but I accept it. Acceptance is a lot better than the alternative. Cause those people that insist that something has gotta give, I guarantee you what will give is their conscience. That part of them comes from God. God. That part will get tossed out every time because they don't want to be the slightest bit odd. They don't want to be the slightest bit seemingly degenerate because that's how they make you feel. If you're not going along with society, even if that very society is degenerate, you know? So the sexual deviancy is just fine, but the mental deviancy will be reprimanded every time because they can't control it, they can't control you. You're invincible, go you. It's true. Anything they can't control, they're gonna stigmatize. Schizos they cannot control. So you have religious people after us saying we're possessed. That's true. A lot of the time that's true. And they have governments, education systems saying like, oh, that's scary shit. It's only scary if you don't know what it is. But that's the thing about America. They don't want to know what they don't want to know. And that's why they're blindsided by all of this shit. Every single time, in every generation, they're so blindsided because they choose that. They choose to not look things up. You have a smartphone! You can look up anything! And you are dumber! Every 5 minutes, you get dumber. So obviously, you're the problem. It's not technology. I bitch about technology all the time. But it's not the technology that's the problem. It's the people that use it, which is why I don't agree with technology. Y'all don't deserve it. You just self-destruct. So, I mean, think about it. This little device that has constant access to the internet. So you could be a genius. You could use that phone to better yourself, and you could be a fucking genius. With all the apps that are available on that phone to help you in all these different ways, you know, like I know people, they use their little watch or whatever the fuck that is, like to, you know, count the number of steps that they take or something like that. You know, it's like you can use it to better yourself. You can use it to become a healthier person. I've seen this on Instagram, like different people that put up stuff from like Dr. Sebi and, you know, like holistic things. Like there's so many people that use it in a positive way, okay? But most people don't because they're self-destructive. Let's just say that. Very, very self-destructive people. Nihilistic. But, you know, I use the internet the way that the internet should be used, but, you know, they don't want people to use the internet like that. Okay? Like, the reason why everybody is so terrible now, and the reason why things just seem like they're extra, it's because of, like, the technology, like, changing their brain. And they're a lot dumber than they were, you know, years ago. I was talking to this friend of mine who, you know, he's a Zoomer, and he understands, like, all the stuff that I bitch about in relation to the phones and the internet, and he's like, you know, he's like, a lot of people think it's because of COVID, but it's not because of COVID, it's because of the internet. Well, COVID just sort of, like, enhanced it, though. It just set it in stone, like what they were trying to do. Because it's so much easier for them to have this, like, communist takeover whenever everybody's addicted to staring at the little TV that validates them and like, it's crazy, like, how true that is. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of a person you are. It doesn't matter, like, what your race is, what your gender is, what you want your gender to be, what your politics are. It's like, there's a place for everybody on the internet. Like, there's a little niche for everybody. So, you know, if you're liberal, of course, like, the media's on your side always, right? We are on the side of the media, right? But so there's all kinds of websites and news articles to, like, validate your reality. Okay, if you're, like, more conspiratorial, you know, like, there's Reddit, there's BitChute, there's, like, all these sites that are, like, devoted to, like, conspiracy stuff. Okay, and then say you're, like, a health nut. Say you actually use the internet appropriately. Well, there's plenty of stuff out there for you too. You know, like what I just talked about. You know, so it's like they can get everybody to do one thing, because, like, the internet is such a versatile place. And I always forget that. Like, back when it started, like, in 1991, it was, like, such an amazing thing. And I feel like because people have had it for so long, they're so used to it, they're accustomed to going on the internet all the time, and they just have no appreciation for it. And they have no idea, like, just how amazing that tool really is. And so I guess, like, when I seem like, oh, I'm just hateful towards technology, it's not because I think that I mean, I do think it's bad, but I feel like it can be used for good. It's just that most people aren't good. Most people are naive and self-destructive and apathetic about everything. And you need to look no further than, you know, the obesity problem. So if people, like, aren't even going to be more mindful about the food that they consume on a daily basis, so that they're not, you know, fat sacks of shit. No offense if you're obese, you know, I'm not trying to come down on anybody. I mean, I'm a skinny sack of shit, how about that? So don't feel too bad about it, because there's so many other people just like you, alright? But it's like, you gotta know that that's not healthy, right? You gotta know that you're not living your best life. But nobody is. I mean, I don't think that's possible in America. I feel like, I mean, I'm living my best life as a schizophrenic, you know? I'm living a fantastic life, really. But that's because, like, I didn't run away from what most people would run away from. And I am now eating the fruits of my labor in relation to mental illness. Studying mental illness for 20 years. I can eat this fruit all day. And I can enjoy it. And pass it along. Whereas most people that are in any way mentally ill will just run away from that. And examples of running away include alcohol and drugs that don't increase your awareness. Okay, the reason I'm against psychiatric medication is because it doesn't increase your awareness. It does the exact opposite. And it makes people kill themselves and gain a bunch of weight and shoot up schools and things like that. Yeah, there are plenty of reasons to be against pharmaceuticals, all right? But there's that. There's, you know, 12-step programs that are, like, designed to help somebody be sober, but then it just leads them down another self-destructive path of, you know, just obsessing about a particular aspect of their personality and not really understanding what made them abuse whatever they abused in the first place. You know, what else? People obsessing about a particular label, but not understanding that they can do something positive with it, rather than just, like, curl up with it and feel sorry for themselves because of it, or, you know, use it as, like, some sort of crutch, you know? and be like, oh, well, I can't do this and this and this because of my disease or whatever. I think that there's something valuable in, like, understanding, like, what you deal with and, figuring out the best way to deal with it. And you're not going to be confident in who you are and, whatever, like, defects you have, whatever malady you're experiencing. You're not going to be confident in your, handling of that situation if you don't have that, like, sort of like awareness within yourself, like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm trying to do something constructive. It's like most people that claim that they're depressed, like, all they do is take pills. They don't try to do anything with that experience. And I feel like that's the major problem, is that people aren't aware that they can use that. So they just allow themselves to be crippled by it rather than, try to understand it. And it's that lack of understanding that, prevents people from being able to take the next step and move forward. And, I don't understand. Like, I've always wanted to understand things. And so, times where I've been emotionally manipulative, like, I was very aware of that, and I was like, why do I do that? Is that because I'm a woman? And that's what got me into, studying borderline personality disorder, because if you don't know already, I really believe that all women have borderline personality disorder. So in case you're wondering, why are all women psychotic? It's because they're on the borderline of psychosis, okay? Don't trust anything that they say. They're full of shit. Because they're not aware of themselves. You cannot trust people that are not aware of themselves, because they can't trust themselves either. But I just never want to use this as, like, some sort of crutch, or, like, feel sorry for me, I'm such a victim, Like, if you don't play the victim about what makes you different or weird or fucked up in the head, if you don't play the victim about it, it will be a superpower eventually. You just have to trust that. You have to trust that eventually you will see the light. And I know that that's really difficult for a lot of people. Like, there was this girl that used to work with me that asked me, like, how I deal with my shit so well, and I told her, well, I just trust that there's a reason for it, and that God understands. And that really comforts me. Like, anytime that I'm experiencing something that's, traumatic, it's like, God sees it. Nobody else needs to see it. God sees it. And so I'm so comforted by that. But most people aren't comforted by that. Because they want validation from this world. And that is wrong. Okay? This world will never be what you want it to be, and it will never do for you what you need, because it's not God. Like, this world is run by his adversary. So all this world will do is lie. But, I think that's really difficult for people to understand, because, like, they don't trust God because they can't see God. Well, think about it like this, if this helps you in any way. You can't see your feelings, but they're there. You know that you're having a really extreme experience, right? Well, okay. Like, nobody's going to understand that. The only thing that will understand that is the thing that created you. So, I don't know if that's hope, gloom, or doom, but it's definitely hope for me.